I'm Michael Bain. Welcome to Triggered, coming to you from the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains and brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. This is a Stag Arms AR-10 308, an old one. I have a couple of projects coming up that called for a good AR-10, so I reached back in my safe and plucked this guy out. It was made prior to Stag's move to Cheyenne, Wyoming. But before we get into the projects, I reached back in the archives as well and got our comprehensive review of this gun. Let's take a look. Today we're going to be talking about the Stag Model 10 in 308, 7.62 NATO. I have an affinity for Stag guns. We've talked about that before. Stag was one of my earliest sponsors on Shooting Gallery years and years and years ago. And they sent me two guns that basically said, take these guns and use them. And in the course of a decade, I used those guns, I would say to pieces, but they held up great. If you recall, if you watched Shooting Gallery that far back, when I got the very first ones, I think we were in Tulsa on one of those ranges there, and I was busy working with, I think, Eric Lund, great guy, super shooter, and I took the two Stags out of the box. They'd been shipped there, and asked another friend of mine, could you run over to the next range and sight them in? And I heard 4 shots, 2 from each gun, 100 yards, boom, right there. And basically, we just used the heck out of the guns. The Stags became the workhorse guns on Shooting Gallery. If we needed a lower, if we needed some, and actually in one case I actually buried it. You know, I have a gun that I can bury in dirt and then pull out and go bang and dirt goes flying everywhere. So I like the Stags. I like the Stags. They hit some rough times with some ATF issues. Those issues are past. And I know this gun's been in the works for a long time. So your basic AR-10 platform gun from Stag, you look at it and you're like, hey, it looks like an AR-10, doesn't it? And it is. It is. A lot of good features and basically what I think of as a great buy. Magpul stock with ACS stock, Hogue pistol grip, which is what I place on my own guns when I want a good pistol grip to it. 18-inch barrel, their own compensator, their own muzzle brake style. One of the things I like about this brake, and a previous issue with Stag, was their brakes overgassed. So what happens is when you fired, so much gas was blowing out of the brake that it would drop the rifle down. You don't want that. What you want is the rifle to stay dead flat. Bang, if it comes up a little, if it comes up a little. This comp works exactly right. Once again, 18-inch barrel. It's a 1 in 10 twist. What does that tell you? It's there to stabilize heavier bullets. You know, the faster the twist you go, the lighter the bullets you go. So 1 in 10 twist, standard for, like, say, call it 168 grain, baseline bullet. Or my favorite hunting bullet ever made for 308, which is the Hornady 178 grain ELDX. So there's a lot to like about this gun. The trigger is good. It's not a match trigger, but if you want a match trigger, you can get a match trigger. But the thing about this particular trigger in this gun is it's like kind of 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds. It's not so much that you're going to run screaming to get a Geisley trigger, to get a Timney trigger and drop it in. It's a workable trigger. The other thing I like, an M-LOK forend. It's obviously, this is kind of the new thinking. You notice how the forend is kind of lightened out. You don't want all that weight on your forend. M-LOK system, you can attach your coffee maker. I don't know, you can attach you know, a printing machine, whatever you need on the end there. This particular gun, I have a Nikon M308 scope on it. This scope was designed, and the mount as well, it's an M308 mount, was designed to be specific, ballistically matched to an AR-10 gun. And I would say to you that it is the perfect match on this gun, on this Stag. This scope is sub $500, and I've shot it a lot now. I've got a bunch of experience with it, and it's a great scope. It is an excellent scope and a perfect match for this gun. One thing you'll notice here, you look at all the oil running down on it, it's like every other AR in the world. It wants to run wet. And you say, well, Michael, did you take it apart? Did you oil everything up? No, no, no. What I did is I dumped oil in the ejection port, racked it 4 or 5 times. The gun's been a rock since. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take this gun out to the range? Why don't we put some rounds through it, and then we'll come back and talk a little more. We've got a lot of hardware here on the table because I wanted to talk to you in the macro sense about the AR-10 platform. When we think AR-15, AR-15 is a Swiss Army knife of guns because it's mil-spec. Basically, it's the same. We look at the upper and lower receiver. I mean, you can get some that are cute and you can get some that are trick or this different color or ones with skulls on the front. All those things, but for the most part, everything will interchange because it's a mil-spec gun. It's designed to have interchangeable parts from all around the world. The AR-10, not so much. Remember, yes, the AR-10 as a platform did precede the AR-15. Stoner wanted the AR-10 platform, but he went with the AR-15, and over all these years, the AR-15 platform has been perfected. So when AR-10s began to be marketed again, let's go back 15 years, you started to see some larger caliber AR platform guns being marketed. They had issues, and they had issues because they're not the same. They may look the same, but when you go to an AR-10 style gun, upper, lower, everything ultimately is proprietary. Yeah, bolt carrier might change out, but remember, in the absence of a mil-spec, there's no reason for all different manufacturers to create exactly the same gun. So what you do when you get an AR-10, you're buying into that platform. Why is that important? More so than with an AR. When you go into an AR-10 platform, you need to really understand what you want to do with it, which is why I got this heavy metal on the table here. Of course, we're talking about the Stag. If we go to the top, for example, this is a Ruger SR762. It's always been an excellent AR-10 platform gun. It's a gas piston gun. You can adjust the gas here. One of the things that everybody notices as soon as they pick it up is it weighs 1.5 tons. You know, it actually is a field serve weapon. It didn't start out that way. Originally, it weighed the same 8.6 pounds as the Stag. 8.5, a little bit below 9 pounds. It's a little bit standard for AR-10. That's what you're going to expect, heavier than an AR-15. There's exceptions to that, but you can never beat physics, right? Physics is real. So if you say, I want a really light AR-10 that shoots a really heavy cartridge, it's going to recoil. This particular AR-10 platform gun, the Ruger, is designed to shoot long range. I have made changes in this gun because I shoot long range with it. I've shot it out to 1,000 yards. I've been very happy with the gun overall. You know, over the years that I've had it, it is an excellent long-range shooter. It has one of the Magpul precision rifle stocks on it, which is heavy, hoe grip, just like always. This particular scope is a Burris XTR2. I might have misspoke earlier. I might have said 5 to 25. This is actually a 4 to 20 which once again, it's a scope that I have shot at long distance. You can see on it, it's actually on basic scope rings, not with a typical AR mount. It's because the AR mount wasn't available for it when we got it. But I'm not worried about weight with this gun because I'm not carrying it through the woods as a hunting gun. And I'm not taking it to Afghanistan with me because I'm not going to Afghanistan. So when you say I want a long range gun, okay. You know, maybe you need to look at it from that standpoint. Critical point is twist, by the way. Typically you see a 1 to 12 or 1 to 10 twist. Let's twist again like we did last summer. 1 to 12, 1 to 10 twist on AR-10 platform guns. The 1 to 12 twist is for the classic ball ammunition, 147 to 150 grain. You want a heavier bullet, you need the 1 in 10 twist. This gun is a dedicated hunting gun. You know, it's from Billy Wilson. It's a Wilson combat. It's in .338. It's not in .308. I think Wilson offers 10 calibers on his AR-10 platform. I think I've shot half a dozen of them. They're all excellent. This is a dedicated hunting gun. It's a pound or so lighter than the Stag even. Scope-wise, you see on here, it's a Leupold. It's a VX6. It's 2 to 12. Which is, to me, one of the great hunting scopes on Earth. It's exactly the right hunting scope for North America. So my focus here is I say I want a little bit of a lighter gun because it's a hunting gun. It's something I am going to carry in the woods. The Stag splits the baby. It comes in right in the middle. Once again, it weighs about 8.6 pounds, which is par. If you wanted to add stuff, you say it's got an 18-inch barrel, 1 to 10 twists. Could you push it out as a long-range gun? Absolutely. You might want to change things on it. You might want to go to a more dedicated stock. Either the Magpul or Randy Luth makes an excellent stock. Goes on a carbine buffer tube. It is a perfect long-distance stock as well. On the other hand, you have this rifle and you say, I want to take it into the woods as a hunting gun. So what are you going to do? Well, you might look at lighter stuff. You might want to go to a fixed stock or a little bit lighter stock than the Magpul. You might want to go to a trigger. And this gun has a Wilson custom match trigger in it because it's a hunting gun. This gun has a Geisley trigger in it because it's a long-range gun. This trigger, a single-stage trigger, because basically I'm shooting it at long range, I want the lightest trigger pull I can get. Hunting gun, not so much. You know, got a couple of stages there, maybe a 3 or 4 pound trigger, 4.5 pound trigger, something like that. As it comes out of the box with the Stag, you got 5, 6 pound trigger. You can go with that either as a hunting gun or as a long range gun until you kind of get your chops down on it. So think about what you want to do with a gun. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to review this Stag, because it does split the baby. If you want to, you could take it up and put it right between these two. And you can say, I got this gun, I'm going to shoot it just like it is. And that's, like I said, shoot it with that Nikon scope. It's excellent scope. Excellent scope. You know, with those ranges, 4 to 16, you want to get to 1,000 yards? Sure. You can do that on that scope. It's up to the rifleman. Turns out it is the Indian, not the arrow. But you can configure the Stag in different ways if you want to go with it. But remember the key point, if you remember nothing else about AR-10s, remember this. When you buy one, you are buying into the platform. Remember that, because it isn't mil-spec. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Taurus USA. Designed to protect. Rock Island Arms Corps. Solid as a rock. And Franklin Armory, making some of the most innovative guns in America. Usually I do a quick 50-yard zero to get on paper. I know that 308, that means I'll be, I don't know, a little high, a quarter of an inch, half an inch high at 100. Typically I'll go back to 100 then and set my sights. With the 308, I like to have a 100-yard zero and then dial as I go farther out. 168 grain Black Hills match. Shoots into a hole at 50. Surprise! I went back to steel match, ran the target out to 100 yards, shot a verifying group about an MOA, about an inch, inch and a quarter high, which is exactly what I would expect on a 200-yard zero. So I'm happy with this thing, very happy with it. What I'm shooting at here today is this. This is from Midway. It is IMI ball, Israeli Military Industries ball. It's good solid 150 grain ammunition. Down here ringing the plate at 150, 200 yards, however far down that plate is. So it works out really well. If you're hunting, not the ammunition you would use. Also, if you're shooting long range, if that plate, instead of being 100, 150 yards down there, was 700, 800 yards, then I'm probably not going to go to full metal jacket ball. But for just blinking away, for practicing to be up here and ringing that plate, this is an excellent ammunition to go to. And the key is it's inexpensive. So that gives you a little bit of a look at this gun. I think Stag is a company that makes guns for people who want to shoot them. They're not boutique guns. It's not a boutique company. You can't get the newest, coolest, hottest, oh my goodness, costliest thing. But what they do is they build a superior, rock-solid gun. That's what they have always done. You can also get this gun 6.5 Creedmoor, by the way. So I like it. I like it because, what, $16.88, somewhere around there? AR-10s are expensive. They're just, that platform is going to cost you a chunk of money. So at like, say, $1,600, you'll probably find it at $1,400 here and there. It represents an excellent value for a .308 rifle. You top it with this Nikon M308 scope, again, sub $500 scope, and you got a package that you can use for under 2,000 bucks. What can you use it for? You can use it for hunting. You can use it to shoot, I don't know, 3-gun heavy metal category. You can use it just to teach yourself long-distance marksmanship. And once again, this is an excellent scope to start on that. 4 to 16X is a super scope to start on shooting farther and farther distance. So once again, this is a company that has sponsored a lot of my projects. They are not a sponsor now. I hope they will be in the future. But this is an excellent gun. It's an excellent gun. And if you're in the market for a .308 AR platform gun, please look at this Stag. Now that you know a little more about this Stag AR-10, I'm almost ready to launch into my projects. By the way, this rifle has a Nikon scope on it, a 4 to 16 made for .308s. It's a great little scope, but pretty much right after our review, Nikon stepped out of the rifle scope market. It's a real shame. The competition in that sub-$1,000 niche is brutal. I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered. We are brought to you by Midway USA, which does have just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. You can find us on michaelbain.tv, or you can find us on YouTube, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next week.